Want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I am done. Okay, so I just finished up reading Magician Apprentice by Raymond E. Feist, and I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was just right now. This book is so dope. I am in love with this book, and I'm shocked. I'm legitimately shocked in such a good way because, you know, I felt like I'd like this, but I also feel like I'll like pretty much every book that I read because, like, why would I read a book if I didn't feel like I'd like it? But this book was given to me as a Patreon pick. As part of my Patreon at a certain tier, you can put a book into a raffle, and if I spin the wheel at the end of the month, well, I mean, I always spin the wheel, but if it wins, then I have to read it. And this one won. And I was nervous because this book was written in, I think, like 1982, and I have kind of been a snob lately for older fantasy books. And I don't want to be that. But I have to like what I like, and for whatever reason, it seems like the more modern fantasy works just appeal to me a lot more. But, oh man, is this good. This is so much better than most modern fantasy books. And it does feel old school. It feels like I'm reading a book from 1982 because it is tropey, but it does them all in a great way. And I think a lot of people, when they say that a book has a lot of tropes in it, that's a bad thing. But, you know, tropes are tropes for a reason. And it's generally the reason because they work. And they can be done in a bad way. They can be overdone, but certainly not here. This was... I'm struggling to think, like, have I read a book that does that, you know, start in a village with a boy that is clearly going to become, you know, larger than life and kind of saving the world, and, you know, it's slow build and then turns into this big thing. You know, think Wheel of Time, you know, think Lord of the Rings, think a lot of books. And this is the best that I've read. It's absolutely fantastic. It does everything perfectly. It's honestly the perfect book. And I didn't even read the whole book because apparently, as I was reading this, I found out that Magician is, I think, the name of the book. And then later on, the author went through and revised it a little bit. I don't know what he did to revise it, but he also split it in half. And so this book that ends on not a great place. I mean, it's supposed to be twice as long. And I still love it for what it is. I can't imagine how much more I'd love it if I actually read the whole thing. It would probably end up being one of my top tier favorite books I've ever read. And as it stands, this is up there. I mean, this is such an amazing debut book for a fantasy series. And the only negative thing I can say here is that I just have to add now a whole boatload of books to my TBR on a enormous TBR that I already have. And I had this plan on, like, these are the series I'm going to read. You know, every month I'm going to read 2 Patreon books, but that's it. But I forgot that if I really like the Patreon books, like I have been lately, Dandelion Dynasty was last month, and I'm going to read all those. And now I have like 15 books now I have to read. And so, yeah, my TBR is never going to end. And I feel like a lot of you can sympathize with this, but that's where it's at. So, about this book. So, I don't want to spoil anything about this because I very much think you need to go pick this book up like yesterday. But this has that old school feel to it. And you have this kid who's training to be a magician, and he has a ton of skill that he doesn't know how to harness. But the backdrop here is that you have this other world, and I don't know much about them at this point, but they end up, you know, finding a rift or figuring out the technology to enter into this new world. And it's theorized that there's a lot of theories about why they want to come to this world, but the point is that they're aliens. They look human, but they're aliens in the sense that they come from a totally different world. And they're coming here and they're starting to go to battle with this, with the people that live here. And that's a really cool concept and not one that I've ever read about. And it just had me fascinated. You know, clearly we're going to figure out how this world can get to theirs. And there's going to be this cross going back and forth all the time. And, Stormlight's got some of that, but this is like the central part of this book. And it's fascinating. And the world feels so real. It's huge. It does this amazing thing that I love in fantasy books. When you look at this map of the world and it's enormous, and you only get to traverse in the book only on a very tiny portion of it. And I love that. It makes things feel so real to me. I love, love, love when books do that. And I hope that we're going to explore more. It just leaves me with such a sense of wonder. And there's a whole other world, and I don't know anything about what that looks like. But I just love this concept. And it's not like that other world is fighting against just like one people. This is not, everyone agrees. There's different factions, there's different races, there's elves, there's dwarves, the classic races. And there's dark elves, and they're fighting against these people too. Nobody can get along. There's amazing political drama here on trying to get everyone together to try to agree, which, is difficult on its own. There's amazing siege battles. This book has like everything. It's so good. I mean, I love how alien this different race is, even though they're like obviously a type of human, and that they think in a totally unique, different way. They have a different language. The way that they appreciate their enemies is totally foreign to what you would think. They're smart in some ways. They're rather not smart in other ways. It's just amazing. It's not what I thought I was gonna get, and I just love everything about it. I cannot wait to keep going in this series. It's got dragons. It's got, going through like a, dwarven mines, kind of Lord of the Rings-ish, but better. I mean, I like this book so much more than I liked the Lord of the Rings books. And I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings books. I have been critical of them in that I think they're overrated, but that overrated because people think it's the #1 series of all time, and I don't. But I still like it. But this did everything that it did better. I mean, I guess there were less songs, and if you love songs in your books, then yeah, go pick Lord of the Rings up. But, the writing here was amazing. The character development was perfect. The plot is just like, I'm just in love with this book. And I wish that I would fall in love with these books that, other people were in love with, like a lot of people, because I know that this review is not going to get, a ton of people hyped up about this, or a ton of people watching. But I don't make these videos to try to make you watch them. I make them because I am reading books and I want to talk to you about them. And that's what's happening in this case. So, it is what it is. But, I hope at least some people can kind of try to figure out and rediscover this series. It's just wonderful old school fantasy done in a perfect way. I can't think of anything that I don't like about this, honestly. It does this amazing thing that I've found that I really like in books, but it's controversial in that it doesn't overly dwell on something. You'll hear the characters say, yeah, now we have to go to this other city for this really important task, and then the chapter finishes, and as the next chapter picks up, they're there, and they've been there for a couple of weeks. I don't need my books to talk about every single footstep that was taken. I'm looking at you, A Feast for Crows. I don't need that, and I say that with a lot of love because I do love A Feast for Crows, but it's not all about the journey here. It's about, going from major event to major event and having a lot of fun along the way. This book is just nonstop fun. It did take a little bit of time to get really ramped up. I mean, you have that classic for, 150, 200 pages of build-up, that life in the castle and trying to develop these characters a little bit. But it had these emotional moments to it that were not surprising. They felt very predictable, but I had a huge smile on my face the whole time because they were done in a really, really good way. I love the love interests here, which, when I think of old school fantasy and love interests, it's a very classic tale that doesn't really shock you at all. But this felt different. It felt more believable. And I wish I could say why to you. I don't want to ruin anything. And it feels like weird to say, I don't want to ruin a book written in 1982. But that's the case. If I was reading something that you've all read before, like Lord of the Rings, let's talk spoilers. Let's go all day. But I don't think a ton of you have read this book. at least the ones that are watching this. I think this is an older audience that doesn't really go on BookTube. BookTube does kind of tend to be a little bit younger. I'm on the older end of the spectrum for BookTube in general. Obviously, there's exceptions to this, but it is what it is. So, but if you do read this, I think you'll know what I'm talking about, and that it does I think a more modern take on a relationship, because relationships are complex. They're not black and white, and this book doesn't treat that like that at all. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I don't want to keep going on this and gushing about this because I'm just going to be saying the same things over and over. So pick up this book. If you want to read this, if you want to read the other ones, come hop in my Discord channel. Link is down below. I'd love to talk to you about it. Maybe we can do a read along and we all can read the next one together, because I cannot wait to start the next one up again. So that's all I got. Thank you so much. And as always, happy reading to you. Want to give a special shout out to my Ascendant tier patrons: Anna, Ben, CJ, Danute, Darren, Jamie, Maria, Michael Sugarman, My Book is Lit, Romeo Mike, Ron Reich, Russell, and Sky.